Hello everybody and welcome to Woopercast. This is episode 12 for July the 21st, 2016. As always, I am your host, Joe Yates. So there's not a whole lot of TCG news going down lately, and I thought I can't really ignore the massive impact we've recently had from a little game called Pokemon Go, which I'm sure you'll be aware of unless you spent the last few weeks hiding under a cave. Look, it's been a really positive impact on our community, I think, and I think it'll really help us in the long run, and I really want to detail my thoughts on it, address some of the complaints a few people have had about the game so far, and that's really what I want to make the focus of this show on, because as much as I love the TCG and as much as I want to focus the show on growing the TCG, I also want to grow the community as a whole, and I also want to help that kind of aspect of it. And I think Pokemon Go's done a hell of a job at doing that. Now, before I get into that, just a quick note, if you are in the Dublin area, if you do want to play some Pokemon this weekend, we've got a ton of things going on this weekend. On Saturday, we have Mini Cup. It is a tournament. It's going to be 40 card decks, commons, uncommons only. Last 3 sets, not including generations, so Face Collide, Breakthrough, Breakpoint. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And on the Sunday, actually, we also have our pre-release for Steam Siege. Again, it's €30 entry free. I'm still not sure if you get the packs or if we get the new pre-release sets that they're sort of rolling out, and they rolled out to America last time. Hopefully it's the packs. They look a bit more, they look like I guess what I get more bang for my buck that way. But if you're interested in either of those things, we're probably going to be playing Pokemon Go throughout the evenings as well on both of those days. I will leave a link to our Facebook page in the description, so if you're in the Dublin area, if you want to do some Pokemon this weekend, this is the perfect opportunity to do it, so please go and check that out. Link in the description. Anyway, on to the show, and this one is going to be all about Pokemon Go, like I said, because I definitely want to focus on its huge impact for our community. So let's first of all go back to see what sort of the general consensus was around Pokemon before the time that Go dropped. And I know I'm saying this like it's ages in the past, and it's about a week ago, at least for Europe anyway. But in general, you tell somebody Pokemon's your hobby, or someone asks you, what do you do? I talked about this a little bit back in episode 7, I believe it was, with Sheldon. And we talked about how, telling somebody that Pokemon was your hobby, or that that's kind of what you did for fun, especially in like a smaller sort of town or a smaller area, it's generally not really seen as, a hugely popular activity, but also just something that's sort of confusing, maybe something that could be frowned upon even. And I'm sure a lot of us as players of the game have felt that over the years at some point. When you're a kid, you watch Pokemon and your friends are into it too. And sort of at some point, I think this is true for an awful lot of people who are still playing the game today, myself included, where you reach a point where your friends sort of decide that they've outgrown the game. Or they've outgrown it, or that it's no longer for them. But you yourself are still into it. And you yourself are still playing it and investing in it. And you reach this point where your friends who you hang out with and the friends who you play Pokemon with are now 2 different people. You have to sort of have 2 separate circles for it. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly understandable. It's just the same thing goes for a lot of sports. But it's not the same when you're trying to explain to people that that's what you do for fun, or that that's your hobby. But since Pokemon Go's release, I feel like if somebody asked you what do you do for fun and you said Pokemon, they'd say me too. And maybe you mean it in different contexts. Maybe you mean it in different spaces and to different degrees of how much you've invested in your game as opposed to how much they've invested in Go. But the point is that it's kind of normalized what otherwise is a really niche hobby. It's made it much more easy to say to people that you like Pokemon because now everybody does. Now everybody's at it again. I think that's really crazy. I myself am from a pretty small town in Ireland. In Ireland, in the context of Ireland, it's a pretty good big town, but as far as towns world over go, this wouldn't exactly be at the top of the scale. So, and for years, I've been into Pokemon basically my whole life. And very, very, very few other people have. And no one to the same degree as myself. No one to the same degree that they would travel to tournaments, play competitively, spend a lot of money on the game itself. Rather just pick up the new 3DS games that get released and stuff. And again, that's fine. Everyone enjoys these things at their own pace and at their own capacity. But the point is that it's always been a difficult place to say that I like Pokemon in, because nobody else really gets that. Nobody else really finds that acceptable even to a certain degree. And it's really quite weird and creates this weird space to sort of try and play in, and then I have to go up to Dublin to play. Dublin's a great place. It's a little more open to different ideas and different walks of life, but at the same time, we're still a super small community in a very large city. Well, again, okay, not large in like a huge global scale, but there's still a lot of people in Dublin. And even to that extent, people would still sort of question you if you said you liked Pokemon. It was kind of weird. But since Go's release, I've seen some really weird stuff happening in my own, pretty small town. I've been walking around. There could be four gyms. I haven't checked completely the other side of town yet, but there's three main gyms, all taken over by completely different teams. I've seen people sitting at benches near where the gyms are, just competing in them. I've heard people say things like, "What team are you?" and shouting over to people across the street at that. I've seen people walk up to like the main church that we have and say, "All right, who dropped the lore here?" I say lure is, I don't know, it's a really ugly word. Sorry for mispronouncing it, but it's the fact that that sort of impact has now come in and that everyone just instantly got into it is just crazy. A town full of people who hadn't touched Pokemon since Generation 1 are now suddenly loving it, the whole game again. And the funny thing is, it's all people of my age and up, of like 20 years old and up. I think the game in general shows a really cool shift for Pokemon's target audience. It's starting to respect the fact that it's people of our age and our generation that are investing in this game the most and that are enjoying this game the most. I think that's really smart of them as well, just to roll out the first 150 Pokemon and not sort of overload it with all 700 or whatever at once. I think keeping it at the original 150 means it remains familiar for the people who grew out of it at a certain point, and for the people who sort of stopped paying attention to it. It means that anyone can jump back in it and instantly go, "Oh hey, Krabby," or Psyduck, or whatever. And I think that just makes it a lot more accessible for people who haven't been in the game for a while, which is really nice to see. And it's really nice to see that it's spreading. And actually on this note, just to digress even further, is the new Pokemon live action movie is coming out. It's being handled by the same people who make the Jurassic Park movies, or at least who made Jurassic World, I mean. And like the idea that that could be targeted towards people of my age and my generation with a really mature theme excites me greatly. That could be something really cool. I would love a proper, I would love a terrifying Pokemon movie where everything is hyper realistic and the sheer power of the Pokemon that is described in the games properly comes through in a big space. I would love to see that. But anyway, this has just been a big long train of thought about how Pokemon's target audience is shifting and how I think this is a really, really good thing because it does need to honor the fact that people of 20 years old and up, I'm like probably the youngest person, as 20 years old, I'm the youngest person I have seen play this game in my town. That is amazing to me. I love that fact. But anyway, the fact is that my small town is playing it is a great thing. And the fact that I've heard people say, "Look over there, a Snorlax," followed immediately by, "That's a Poliwhirl, you fucking idiot." It's created these great comical moments, and it's really brought people together. It's brought people out of the house in a vacuum where there's no, I think there's a lot of peer pressure as well that people at my age and, slightly younger than this as well to do the same things that your friends are doing. And if Pokemon is part of that peer pressure, I'm fine with that. It's not drugs, it's not drink, it's a completely different activity. It's perfectly healthy for you. It's a great group activity. In fact, it encourages you to play it in groups. I think it's fantastic that it's now provided people of my age an alternative to those other sort of things that are normally just considered the norm for people my age. I know, I really like that aspect of it, and I really like that it's given people a completely different thing to do, and it's something that people are really getting into. Even my local library, which is it's one of the few sort of local businesses that has sort of really thrived in a terrible few years of economy, and it's really hung on in there, and it's still going, and it's great to see. It has a big poster in the window now advertising that it's a Pokestop, asking people to drop lures there and stuff like that, and I'm really into that. I really love that. We actually have the severed head of a saint in our local church. That is a Pokestop. Yeah, it's a guy's severed head, and I have seen people gathering around the severed head, collecting Pokeballs and eggs. So hey, it creates comical situations. It brings people together in sort of to historic monuments that they otherwise wouldn't visit. It's fantastic. It's turned spots in the town that are normally that's where teenagers go to get high into that's where teenagers go to catch Pokemon. It's a very weird experience walking around the town now, I gotta say. But a very positive one, and I'm very, very happy with its impact so far. I wonder if the same thing sort of applies to people in bigger cities, actually. So if you're from a bigger area, do let me know. Has it changed that much at all? Like, are people still do things seem normally the same, or is this a bigger impact in smaller areas like mine? So, yeah, let me know what the impact's been like for your area, and let me know what it's been like to see in your town. And if friends who you haven't seen play Pokemon in ages have suddenly gotten into the game, I think that's a fantastic thing. In general, I think it's a massive step forward for the community. I think it's a massive step forward because it's allowing us to bring more people into our game and into our franchise. And while I know you'll probably say to me, but Joe, this doesn't mean that they're all going to suddenly pick up the Pokemon trading card game and they're all going to suddenly play that. That's not really what I'm talking about. What I mean is that it's become more of a global thing. Like I was talking about earlier about how it's normalized it and about how it's okay to tell people that you like Pokemon now because everyone else does too. I think it's a great thing that it's allowed our community to grow, and I think people knew Pokemon was still a thing, right? But I don't think people knew it was a thing for people of 20 years old and up. I don't think people really saw or accepted that older people were into it. And now finally Pokemon themselves are accepting it. And now the general public are accepting it and getting into it in some sort of vacuum. And you know what? I think that's a fantastic thing. It's honestly, it's a small miracle that we've managed to do this. And even like, look, I'm going to address a few flaws of the game here, or at least a few complaints that some people have had, and I want to sort of air them out and address them head on. And I think one of them is that, you know, in the age of the internet and the age of modern media, things move very quickly. Trends move very quickly. Things like memes, unfortunately, come and go quicker than like anything. And is this one of those things? Is this going to sort of drop off? Are people going to stop playing it after a while? Is this going to just be a forgotten memory like a month from now? And you know what? Maybe it is. I think no matter how much updating Niantic do to it, I think eventually, they're going to keep adding generations and generations of Pokemon. They're going to add new features to the game, but I don't know if that's actually going to keep people. I think it might overwhelm some people at some points. But I can't see this game and its impact. I can't see like a year from now it's still as big as it is on launch day, obviously. Things just move really quickly in this age, and I think they move too quickly for Pokemon to keep up with. But I think the memory of it will last. This has been a huge, iconic moment for the community. Like, I mean, think of a bigger moment for this in Pokemon's history. Because I can't. Like, maybe when the anime first aired. That's probably about it. It's that big. And so this is going to stick in people's memories. So even if a year down the line you tell somebody you like Pokemon, they'll have been there for that period where it will have been normalized. And it won't seem weird that it's still a thing. And I keep going on about this, and I know it's not a huge problem for everyone, but I know some people, I think the majority of people do have sort of a little bit of guilt or embarrassment attached with playing this game. But Pokemon Go has now just come here and said, okay, you shouldn't. And that's just beautiful. So yeah, despite the fact that the game might not last for a lot of people, I think it will for some, and it will at least stick in the heads of the people who did play it. And even the people who didn't will there's no way you can't take notice of it. It's just everywhere right now. It's really put us on the map, I think. And to that extent, it also kind of angers me when I hear, or when I see posts on Facebook, or I hear people who have been playing the game for quite long, who say, but I'm a real Pokemon fan, but I've invested in this game for my whole life, but I've been here from the very beginning. What gives them the right to sort of just hop into my hobby that they once slagged me off, or that they once, thought I was a weirdo for participating in? I think this is such a negative attitude, and I really, really hate seeing this kind of publicity. You're not better than somebody else. You don't have more of a right to Pokemon than somebody else, just because you've been here from the start. As somebody who has been here from the start, haven't been playing the trading card game from the start just to avoid any confusion, but I have been a Pokemon fan in some capacity since, God, I can't remember not ever being one. And I think that's just a horrible attitude to have. If you really want the game to grow, you cannot close off the community like that. You cannot stop people from entering the game just because they haven't been a part of it as long as you have, or just because they don't get it as much as you do. I say get it with inverted commas. It's completely counterproductive to the very essence of what Pokemon Go has tried to do and achieved in bounds. Um, I think you really need to be open to new people coming towards the game. For ages you might have been on their level, you might have tried things that they enjoyed. Now it's their turn to try the thing you enjoy. Now it's their turn to participate in the game that you've probably wanted them to participate in for years now. Why would you want to stop that? Why would you want to be negative towards that? That's just something I really don't understand. It's an attitude I just don't get. And I highly discourage. Look, if your friends who once told you you were an idiot for still playing Pokemon are now playing Pokemon, okay, cool. They're hypocrites. So what? Let them play Pokemon. Nothing is stopping them. It's a free game on the App Store. All you need is a smartphone, which just about everybody has. And actually, to the point of the target audience thing, you do need a smartphone with a data plan to play this game. Most people who are like, 14, probably 10 to 14, like the kids, the junior seniors division, probably don't have smartphones with data plans. I mean, okay, I know some of them do, but for the most part, being able to play the game, you have to be of a certain age and up, and that's just showing a huge shift in Pokemon's focus and their target audience. But no, don't discourage people from playing the game. Don't act like a dick just because people are trying to get into a game that you know so well and that you're so invested in. And hey, you know what? Your friends might show up and they might be better than you, even though they haven't touched Pokemon since they were a kid. And that's okay. I think the other complaint that people are making about the game is that it's quote unquote dangerous. Is that, we've heard all these reports of people getting hit by cars or robbed while playing the game or stuff like that because they're too busy looking at their phone to pay attention to the surroundings. There's a few things I want to make on this point. First thing, the game does open with quite a long loading screen, and the message that is displayed for the entirety of that loading screen is warning you to still be aware of your surroundings and to not get hit by cars and generally not be an idiot. Look, if you're don't look at your phone while you're crossing a road. Don't try and catch a Pokemon in the middle of the street or in somebody else's back garden, because that's dangerous / illegal. Please don't do this. And really, that's on you, not on the game. The other thing is that, we see these people who that guy walked into a lamppost while playing it, which just sort of sounds hilarious, but whatever. Or that guy got hit by a car while playing it, or whatever. This has probably been going on for quite a while. Pokemon Go didn't invent people staring at their phones and not paying attention to their surroundings. People have been doing this for quite some time now. And people have probably been walking into lampposts while texting their friends for quite some time now. It's just being advertised now. It's just being sort of published in the media now because Pokemon Go is such a big thing. It's just an easy way to tie it in and an easy way to make a headline because it's got Pokemon Go in it. It's instantly clickable for a ton of people who see it. And, it's just, that shit would probably happen anyway. People are idiots. Just, look, if you're playing the game, please pay attention to your surroundings. Don't be a headline or a statistic. Be a Pokemon master, alright? Be aware of what you're actually doing. It's entirely on you. Look, this one's not the game's fault. Just don't be idiots. And people getting robbed, you know what? That probably happens all the time. There are areas of Dublin where you should not probably call people on your phone or have your phone out at all, because it will get whipped out of your hand and someone will run down the street with your phone and then they will sell it and make money off of it. So, again, look, just be sensible. Don't go down a shifty-looking back alley looking for a coughing, which is actually what I did on Tuesday night, and it worked out, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but whatever. I think the final complaint that people have is the servers, and honestly, look, I'm not going to defend this one. The servers haven't been fantastic. They have been pretty unreliable, and I said I'm not going to defend this one, but I'm about to defend it anyway. They have had an abnormally large amount of traffic. Even they didn't expect this amount of traffic. They got way more traffic from people illegally downloading the game on top of the legal downloads, which means their servers weren't built to deal with the sheer number of people actually playing the game who even weren't supposed to be in the first place. It also just the fact that people in general are playing it that they didn't expect to play it, I would assume. The game has become massive overnight. The servers are all overwhelmed with traffic and they will stable out. We just need to give them some time. These are some teething problems and we'll work through them. That's really all I can say about that one. And yes, it does suck for now that sometimes you catch a Pokemon and you have to restart the game and then you didn't actually catch the thing at all. It sucks. I know. Whatever. But like I said, these are all teething problems. These are all largely problems with the people playing the game as opposed to the game itself. And at the end of the day, Pokemon Go has done something for the community that I don't think anything in Pokemon's history has or will again. It's been a phenomenal success. It's been a cultural phenomenon. It's everywhere. People you never thought would be playing Pokemon are playing Pokemon. It's being in the news. It's just everywhere. And for once, finally, that game that we've all loved, that people seem to sort of just forget, that just dropped off the radar, is back right at the forefront of our societies. And that's what we've wanted. That's what we've been like sort of striving for ages. Or at least people who want to grow the community. Anybody who runs a league. Anybody who has ever promoted a tournament or ever tried to get their friends into the game. That's what we want. This is the ultimate goal, and it sort of just happened overnight. And frankly, I'm overwhelmed by it all. And heck, I'm sure Pokemon are too. So yeah, bit of an interesting episode this week. Bit of a short one as well. I didn't have a whole load of time to throw one together. I kind of bogged down with some other work, so sorry about that. But yeah, I'll do something TCG related next episode, I swear. Yeah, look, Pokemon Go's great. I'm probably going to go out now and catch myself a whatever the hell I can find. Let me know how your experience has gone with Pokemon Go so far. And because I assume you're all wondering, Team Instinct for life. This has been Joe from Woopercast. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back every Thursday, British Standard Time, 5 p.m. This one will be later than 5 p.m. Again, apologies for that, but bogged down with work. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let me know how your experiences have been with Pokemon Go so far. I'm very interested to hear all the stories that have been coming out of the game. It's been very fun to read about other people's experiences with it. Don't forget all the tournaments if you're in the Dublin area. Links in the description to see those. Go to the Facebook page and you'll find all the events. We're going to have a lot of fun this weekend, so do come along if you're listening. This has been Joe from Woopercast. Thanks very much for watching.